Order. Quiet. Can I get a roll call?
Mr. Sterling.
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Mrs. Brogan.
Here.
Mrs. Ranieri.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Jill Brogan.
Here.
Mrs. Meeks here.
Chris Arduino, recording secretary.
Troy Yarborough, Superintendent.
Michelle, our curriculum and instruction.
Graham Quinn, Board Attorney.
I'll turn this over to Jason Bloom.
Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, we'll let the kids come in first. And then we'll make sure we have time for families to get in and out. Good evening, we've got some friends from Maple Elementary for our pledge this evening. Before we let them get started, though, I'm going to try and do our best to get their families that are here to watch them in here as well. So we'll let them kind of circle around us all. So,
Yep.
kids, if you want to go kind of right up in the middle there.
The flag. Yeah, we're gonna just do the flag. All right, so we'll come this way. Come right up here.
Wait for families.
You kind of go through.
Perfect.
Table.
Riley, do you want to stand in front here?
We'll make sure you all get in here.
Good. Perfect.
You want to kind of leave out from Maple.
Come on around.
I think we have our Maple.
Go for it.
It looks like the train stopped here.
Okay.
So
Just keep going around.
I don't
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I promise to take responsibility for my learning and my behavior. I will be caring, honest, and respectful. Maple School is a better place because I am here today.
Great job, guys.
Good job. Yep, we'll get our donuts. We'll get our donuts.
I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Yarborough.
All right, thank you. The mission of the Harlem Consolidated School District as a vital part of the community is to help diverse learners realize their unlimited potential by providing an educational program dedicated to academic excellence and the development of strong character in a safe and respectful learning environment. The reason, again, why I do that at every board meeting is regardless of what's on our agenda, to remind everybody of why we're here. So.
Okay. I need to get approval of the agenda with changes. Strike 11B, 13, and 13Q.
So 11B, sorry, what was the second one?
13, no garbage bid.
13, okay. Where's 13?
13, 13Q.
13Q, okay.
An action item.
Yeah, action.
Oh, yeah, I see it there, thank you. Just those?
Just those. Added 2 more student travel, 1 request under Dr. Irving's report.
Okay.
Can I get a motion with that, with those changes?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye. I need a motion and a second to approve the approval of the board meeting minutes, regular and closed minutes of April 25th, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Abstain.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
There are no awards and recognitions. So going to comments from the community. So these will be 3 minutes and address the board. Each speaker will be allotted up to 3 minutes. Comments concerning the same subject matter can be narrowed. First submitted by comment, but we're not going to do that. Please be aware the Board of Education members will not respond to your comments or questions during the meeting. If necessary, the superintendent or appropriate designee will contact you after the meeting to follow up on a concern or a question brought forward. Megan Hastings.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Megan Hastings. My girls go to Lowe's Park Elementary. So initially when I heard about the planned banning of books in question, my reaction was shock. Harlem 122 has been a front runner of inclusivity, something that made enrolling my 2 kids here a very easy decision. I've taken the last 2 weeks to familiarize myself with the text in question. From what I understand them to have themes of sex, racism, classism, media bias, abuse, sexual or suicidal ideation, suicide, gender dysphoria, gender identity, homophobia, LGBTQ+ issues, and violence, specifically domestic violence. I want to ask why these subjects are inappropriate. Why, in order to present our kids with a well-rounded education, we must take hard stuff out. Ultimately, you can take these books off the shelves, but these kids and their history will still be there. Their questions and their struggles will still exist. I attempted suicide twice in high school. Thankfully, I was unsuccessful. A lot of kids aren't. The U.S. Adolescent suicide rate is currently 10.6% and rising, with majority of those numbers reflecting BIPOC and LGBTQ+ teens. A book like Genderqueer would have been life-changing. As an adolescent, the simple fact of feeling seen can change everything. Reading this book at 34, I wept, realizing things I didn't know about myself when I was younger. I can only imagine what this book would do for kids these days. Presently, I'm a non-binary parent raising 2 black children in a country where 2 days ago, racism assisted in the murder of 10 people. Gunned down buying groceries on a Saturday by a self-proclaimed white supremacist because of the color of the skin. The same color of the skin of my daughters. I don't think relevance is an argument here. This isn't fiction. This is the world our kids are living in. As parents, as educators, why is the decision to censor, to erase these things? These are very relevant things. It is what to make us more comfortable. Parenting isn't comfortable. Educating isn't comfortable. It's what we signed up for, though. In my eyes, this is not a question of appropriate or not appropriate. This is an innate fear of hard conversations, of accountability, and of tough questions. Is that how we want to parent or teach? In fear? In my opinion, that's lazy parenting. That's lazy education. To blatantly ignore current issues and censor books that make us uncomfortable would send the message that discomfort is not necessary for change. That if we don't like something, we can just get rid of it. Where is the opportunity for growth there? I'm disappointed as a parent of 2 black kids, as a member of the LGBTQ community, as a member of this community, and as a parent of 2 Harlem 122 students. We can do better. You can do better. May I suggest that instead of wasting resources on conversations like these, we keep those books on the shelves.
Thank you. Your
That
3
we
minutes,
end-
sir. Thank you. Jeremy Hisson.
This for for me personally is not about what lifestyle a student chooses or lives. This is about the sexual situations portrayed both in words and pictures. The gender of the characters involved or their path is not my concern. My concern as a parent, coach, scoutmaster, member of a group that has caught and helped prosecute predators, and an advocate for kids over the years who I've helped to no longer self-cut or mutilate, helped when they thought drugs were the only way to feel numb enough to not feel the pain, and helped when they decided to quote-unquote go against the norm, as some people say, and decide who they wanted to date or marry for themselves. Never did I use these types of materials to help them. There was a lot of support and a lot of love. Just as a reminder from one of the particular books, this is a father raping his 11-year-old daughter. A bolt of desire ran down his genitals, giving it length and softening the lips of his anus. Surrounding all this lust was a border of politeness. He wanted to fuck her tenderly, but the tenderness would not hold. The tightness of her vagina was more than he could bear. Removing himself from her was so painful to him, he cut it short and snatched his genitals out of the dry harbor of her vagina. That like makes me emotional reading it. It's crazy. For me, this isn't the people showing up bringing a pitchfork and flames and how dare you. But it's also not the strict parents in Footloose worried whether their kids are going to dance either. I do have an issue with the new policy as far as the review is only 2 librarians and 2 teachers. I think that sets it up to be fairly one-sided. In my opinion, more support for those who don't know how they can talk to their parents, more bridges for those who aren't getting the support at home. Those things would be a better avenue than books like these.
Yeah.
Mr. Yarborough, I would like to speak to you at the end. As one of the people in our group, we have over 1,900 now, kind of was made to feel alone when she addressed you via email about some of these books, kind of like you're the only one, even though we've had nights here where there's 300 of us. So my question after this is, would you prefer that those 1,900 people all email you, or have one avenue of conversation, and maybe we can all meet at a later time? And maybe it wasn't intentional, I'm not saying that, but I do want to know what you want for that process.
Peter, is it Nagalis?
Nagas.
Thank you. Sorry.
Dr. Yarborough, esteemed school board members, fellow teachers, and community members. I'm coming to you to speak to you from my 17-year-old self who stood in front of a mirror in his college dorm and said out loud to himself, "You're gay and you're going to be okay." Admitting that to myself was the beginning of a long coming out process. I'm coming to you today to speak for my 21-year-old self, who finally, after 4 years, had the courage to come out to the first person, his closest friend, as a gay man. I'm coming to speak to you today as my 31-year-old self, whose eyes welled with tears at the Chicago Theater, surrounded by thousands of gay men and women who had come to see Ellen DeGeneres, only then starting to realize that I was not an anomaly, not a pariah, not some isolated case of being gay. My journey took me 3 times as long to realize, to accept and love myself, because I didn't see myself reflected in my high school, in any literature that I read, in any TV programs that I watched. I now come to you as a dedicated educator of the school district and an advocate for my students. I'm frightened by the many Don't Say Gay bills proposed in states across our nation, and the threat it poses not only to our marginalized LGBTQIA students, but in addition to how topics like critical race theory and other marginalized groups are being erased from our school curricula. Currently, there are 8 books that are being challenged at our IMC that are there for students to check out and read. These books allow our LGBTQIA students, our Black and brown students, our Latino students, to see themselves reflected in our curriculum. Removing literature that allows our students to hear a voice that reassures that their experiences are valid is not something that should be erased from our curriculum. This literature also serves a perspective for their cisgender heterosexual white peers who may not have had these experiences and can learn from the experiences that LGBTQIA, Black and Brown, Latino students have to endure in our society. Our job is to educate, and education means allowing for multiple perspectives. Please don't erase these voices from the curriculum at Harlem and from our high school library. I often wonder how my experiences as a white gay male would have been different had I seen myself reflected in a book and able to say, hey, they're like me. I implore you to continue to support our racial equity work, our current gender support plan for our trans students. Let's keep student voice in schools and homophobia, racism, and hatred out. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Hoffman.
I wanted to start my chat with some good news in this matter. A parent told me recently that how a concerned counselor from Harlem Middle School had reached out to them about a concern that she had for the student. And so she arranged a meeting with the counselor, with the teachers and the student and the parents, and it worked out in a very positive direction. So for that, I just want to say thank you and appreciate those that are working daily to reach students. Now, I love to read the news, and there's some bad news. Boeing, as you may have heard, has decided to move their corporate headquarters out of Chicago to Virginia. The need to attract engineering talent was listed as one of their reasons. Plus, a May 12th article in the Rockford Register-Star talked about all the job declines in our community and affecting us. These trends, along with the low math and reading scores, for example, of our school district, is a trend that it looks really bleak. I understand that the 8 books reviewed by committee will be voted on again this evening. A decision to remove them is a move in the right direction. A decision to remove them is consistent with the pursuit of academic excellence and the development of a strong character in a safe and respectful environment, much like the man before me. The foundation of the scientific process in engineering is the ability to think critically. Science begins with assumptions and then must test and verify them. It is insensitive to our feelings and has no bias towards our assumptions. The librarian, Leah Caribner, has a right to her professional opinion regarding these books. However, we have not heard this evening, I have not seen any supporting facts that this material is helpful, aside from the talk before me. The ability to think critically demands that this and all opinions must be tested and supported by evidence, whether it's good or bad for students, parents, and the community. The journey to reverse our decline as a nation and within this community in education and be on a better path is long and difficult. It took us 60 years to arrive at this point, as I stated a month ago when I talked. This could be a first step to change direction for the school district. We don't need more slogans and fads, but we do need to pursue what the school system can do to focus on teaching the scientific method. Thank you.
Please keep outbursts down. We have to keep it for everybody. Thank you. Brad Shields.
Thanks to all the board members that have chosen to serve this district. I want to address multiple concerns that I have as an avid supporter of the Harlem schools. Some of the recent ongoings in our schools have have you on the verge of awakening a sleeping giant. A majority of our community does not agree with many of these decisions. Many of you have taken advantage of operating under the radar, taking advantage of the taxpayers' apathy and ignorance of the issues. Let's talk taxes. Harlem is the only taxing body, not just schools, I'm talking every single taxing body in any of our regions that raised their tax rate this year. We are outpacing all of our competing school districts. This year we saw a tax rate increase of 6%. This is further compounded by a rising fair market value that creates a double whammy for our taxpayers. Rockford took a 5% rate decrease. Hononegah took a 1.5% rate decrease. Harlem is more expensive. Harlem is 6% more expensive to live in than Hononegah. Almost 10% more expensive than Rockford, and 20% more expensive than living in Belvedere. These are facts, folks. You are only making this more difficult to sell our community. We've got to find ways to rein in the spending and represent your constituents better by creating the necessary friction required by a school board to keep school spending in check. The tax bills you just delivered show us that our goals are much different. Your audience is growing and you'll continue to see more people until we start seeing changes. CRT, inclusion banners that exclude most of your community, gender and sexual material and discussions that are not age appropriate or relevant to education, sexual inappropriate literature in our libraries, teachers pushing agendas that don't belong in schools, allowing kids to change their species, mixed gender bathrooms, female products in male bathrooms, and I could go on and on. When a student knows his teacher's political leanings or value system, you've crossed the line. 30 to 50% of the teachers in your district, this district, do not agree with this garbage. So they are working in a hostile work environment created by you. Schools are for academics and preparing students for further education and workforce. It is the parents' job to mold their child's value systems, not you. You've reached a tipping point for me with all this woke behavior, and I will relish the opportunity to fill this school board with ultra-fiscal and social conservatives that represent what a majority of your constituents believe. Take a glance at my handiwork at the Harlem Township.
Thank you.
I do not lose.
3 minutes.
That's 3 minutes?
That's 3 minutes.
Thanks.
Kira Newman.
Good evening. I wanted to express my concern over the book challenge and potential decision to ban 8 books in our library. When first learning of the vote to not accept the recommendations to keep the books, I was shocked. This board has taken steps to lead with equity, putting it at the forefront of our mission here at Harlem. So it was shocking to hear that you would choose to ban 8 books by authors of color or LGBTQ authors. I was shocked that you would restrict diverse perspectives from students wishing to seek out stories that represent them and their lived experiences, which is oftentimes left out of the broader curriculum. Attacking books that feature people of color or LGBTQ+ characters are attacks upon students who identify with these groups, further disenfranchising those who already belong to marginalized communities. I appreciate that we have a detailed policy in place to handle book challenges, and I appreciate the work that was put into creating the informed recommendation. I hope we continue to follow best practice guidelines outlined by the National Coalition Against Censorship and the American Library Association. Such guidelines have been designed to ensure rigorous standards and to avoid ad hoc, highly irregular acts that could run afoul to relevant legal doctrine. At this moment, it seems we are willing to allow some parents to ban the access of information from all students. To me, this is problematic. We have the technology to limit what individual parents deem inappropriate for their own children, but we should not be okay with some parents making that decision for all students. For some of our students, having the access and ability to read a story in which they see themselves could be literally life-saving. In 1982, the case Board of Education Island Tree School District versus Pico ruled that under the First Amendment, school boards could not remove books from the library based merely on official suppression of ideas. They cannot ban books because they dislike the ideas contained in them, or because the books and their characters illustrate viewpoints different of those of the school board, especially when they target books presenting the viewpoints of racial and sexual minorities. PICO has come to stand for the general accepted belief that the U.S. Constitution protects the right to receive information and ideas. Justice William Brennan reasoned that in a democratic society, the right to receive ideas is as important corollary to the First Amendment right of individuals or the press to send them. Please do not go forward in banning these books because some parents don't want their children to have access to them. This would be a gross violation to all other parents and, more importantly, to students in the district that will lose the choice and their constitutional right to receive information. Thank you.
Thank you. Jalen Charles.
Hi, my name is Jalen, and in my 18 years of life, I've never missed a day of church. Aside from a few curveballs, my brothers and I had a pretty normal childhood. I went to an educational program through St. Paul Church, pre-K to first grade, and then Rock Cut for elementary. I loved reading as a kid. I read plenty of books and had an amazing relationship with the librarian at Rock Cut. Like I said, I had a pretty normal childhood. Leadership meeting on Monday, choir rehearsal on Tuesday, Bible study on Wednesday, youth meeting Saturday, church on Sunday, and repeat. I wasn't allowed to read the books that we're discussing today. I was molded to hate myself. My Christian guardians wanted me to stay normal, but when I started to feel attraction for my best friend, I felt anything but normal. I knew that I was anything but normal. I tried so hard to repress my feelings. I forced myself to like boys. I just didn't want to be different. I was unmotivated in school, I was depressed. I didn't feel like I was in a welcoming space, and I didn't know where their spaces were. That wasn't until Ms. Dunaway intervened. Though my options for queer literature as an elementary school kid in the 2000s was limited, Ms. Dunaway lent me the graphic novel Drama by Raina Telgemeier, which had LGBTQ+ characters in it. The small gesture showed me a couple things. It showed me that 1, I was normal, and 2, it showed me that those spaces were out there, that I wasn't an anomaly. I've said all this to say that if it weren't for books that highlight different perspectives, I would still feel lost and alone. Without books like Genderqueer, it would have taken me long to figure out who I am. And to deprive the children in our school of the ability to read these perspectives simply because they're different from your own is cruel and selfish. Banning books from school serves no one and harms kids like me, just trying to figure it all out. Thank you for your time.
Melissa Jordan.
I am here talking tonight as a teacher, but also as a parent of an LGBTQ+ child. I have purchased for Christmas one of the books, Genderqueer, for my own child. Me and my husband both read it before we gave it to our child and had a very nice discussion after they got finished reading it. The only book in years that they sat down and read the whole thing without stopping. Can I have some respect here? I can see the only group that's shouting out. That's all I can say. But, and we had a wonderful conversation about the book and what they actually took away from the book, which was a different message than I thought that they would get from it. So maybe that's something that all parents could do when they're giving or having their children read difficult and maybe controversial topics. Another thing I would like to say is just last week in my advisory class, a senior girl wanted to practice her speech for her speech class next week. It was a dramatic speech about a book that she had read, and it was, I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter. And it was a great speech, and afterwards I said, hey, why did you choose that book? And she said, well, it's great. And you know, the terms that the kids use, not very much detail, but she's like, I really felt like it represented me. And I would hate to go back to school tomorrow and tell her that that's banned now, because she feels like that book represented her. So when you vote tonight, you're not just banning books, you're banning students who feel represented by those books. And we are a public school with a diverse population, and I would hope that you vote knowing that that wonderful diversity is dependent on us serving everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Wes? Seven, Shoner?
Hi, my name is Seven. I myself grew up in a household where I was never told anything about anything that was not heterosexual, cisgender, such a clear box of what my parents expected me to be when I grew up and what society thought that I should be when I grew up. And I couldn't know anything more because I wasn't told anything more. My schools that I'd been to, I'd never heard a single thing. And my whole family and my friends and everybody that I've ever met never said anything about, you know, anything other than girls being with boys and people I never even thought that somebody could think that they were something that they weren't told they were when they were born. And in middle school, I finally came across media, literature, stuff that portrayed these people that were different and I'd never heard anything about. And I would look at myself in the mirror for hours, just thinking, who am I? And I never knew. And before I knew, I would tell myself that it didn't matter and that I was who they told me I was and that nothing would change. And when I saw myself, and when I saw these people, when I saw these different communities, when I saw them represented in media, I finally didn't feel alone anymore. And it was the best moment in my whole life. And I know friends who have gone through the same thing, who finally found something that told them that it was okay to be who they were. And it's never been negative. It's always been positive. It's always been uphill, maybe not straight up, but it's been up. Erasing this literature, erasing LGBT and voices of any minority is only going to make things worse for a lot of people, especially people who grew up in an environment where this wasn't talked about at all. And I hope you understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Austin.
To be clear, I am not a book banner. I'm a parent with valid concerns. I'm not saying these are horrible books. What I am saying is that there is a place for these books. However, that place is not at school or in the school library. If a parent wants their student to read these books, they can obtain them by other means. Of course, one could argue if that's the case, why not allow them in the school library? Drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, and porn are available elsewhere too, so should the school allow those as well, or open up some rooms to allow students to engage in sex? After all, sex is being promoted and encouraged by the school, so why not? Here's the thing, the school's role is to set a positive example and a healthy example for our impressionable youth, and to provide students with proper education and guidance in making wise decisions. It is not the school's place to provide students with material that contains inappropriate sexual content, among other things. It is also not the school's place or any staff member to promote and encourage sex. As far as the books, here are some of the many examples of what they contain. From The Bluest Eye, a father raping his 11-year-old daughter. A bolt of desire ran down his genitals, giving it length and softening the lips of his anus. Surrounding all of this lust was a border of politeness. He wanted to fuck her tenderly, but the tenderness would not hold. The tightness of her vagina was more than he could bear. Removing himself from her was so painful to him, he cut it short and snatched his genitals out of the dry harbor of her vagina. She appeared to have fainted. From Lawn Boy, Michael, I was 10 years old, but it's true. I put Doug Goebel's dick in my mouth. Nick, what the fuck are you talking about, Michael? Michael, I was in 4th grade. It was no big deal. He sucked mine too, and you know what? It wasn't terrible. From I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter. I wonder if Connor expects us to have sex. Lorena says I have to shave my pussy before I go. From Gender Queer, I got a new strap-on harness today. I cannot wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You are going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life that I want you inside of me. These are just a few examples for you to listen to. Imagine reading the entire book or books. Worse yet, imagine your child reading it. Keep in mind the child who did not read it is still influenced and affected by the one who did. There is a long list of why this should not be available to underage minors in a school setting, especially when there is a plethora of books that achieve the same goal without containing inappropriate content. Removing this material from the library is only the first step. The bigger question going forward is what steps will be instituted to avoid similar or worse materials being placed in the library. To the board, I sincerely thank you for your time and ask that the board members who voted to remove this material please honor your vote. For the members who approved these books, I ask you to please reconsider your vote based on what is in the best interest of the students and the oath you took when you were elected to the board. Again, thank you for your time.
Katie Hardy.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
This is the second time that I've come before this board to talk about equity in schools. The last time was to get approved a banner that was put up on all of the schools in the school district. That was what I said to be the first step in having more equity inside of schools. And although some may not see these books as equity, they are. I can't speak for anybody in this room who has issues with gender, or wrong word, not issues, who has a different gender identity than me or different beliefs than me, but they are just as valid as I am, and I think it's important to provide them with a space where they can appropriately explore themselves and their identity. There's a lot of discontent around the sexual aspects of these books, but I've done my own research, and they are taking bits and pieces out of these books that they deem to be inappropriate and not taking into account the literature as a whole. Invisible Man has instances of a man raping his daughter. Invisible Man has instances of a man having a dream about being castrated in gruesome detail. I read this book, and that's not what I got from it. I wasn't tortured by these literature. I wasn't traumatized by it, because that wasn't the point of the book. Lots of people in this room and outside of this room also had complaints about my banner and saying that it didn't represent the majority of people in the Harlem School District. And I'm here to say that it wasn't meant to, because not everything has to do with white people, not everything has to do with white males, not everything has to do with what we want, what I want as just one person. The most voices in the room aren't always the most right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. John Leesky?
Hello. You may remember me from last summer when I asked the question, how many sexes are there? Okay, the Bible says male and female. And I understand the quandary that our society is in today, but God doesn't change. Things have not changed. And, you know, last year when I spoke, you might recall that you brought forward a young lady who had just gotten back from state who won a championship medal for Harlem. Do you remember that? Oh, you can't answer questions, I'm sorry. Okay, if we had transsexuals in that race, chances are pretty good she's not walking up in front of you being lauded, which she should have been lauded for her accomplishment. So there's a lot of ramifications about this. And, you know, according to the Family Research Council, there's more involved in this issue about pornography. It undermines marriages, it destroys families, it steals the innocence of children, it leads to addiction, isolation, increased aggression. I think we've witnessed some of the thoughts of some people here who have said they were depressed. Well, when you go against God, you will be depressed. And not only that, you know, this is a public school, a public setting, but God exists and rules and reigns over public schools, private schools. I had the privilege, not because I'm white, of a private education, only because my dad worked his tail off to provide me with that. Okay? Pornhub, the world's largest free porn site, had over 33 billion visits in 18. Okay? One thing from a scientific thing, pornography erodes the prefrontal cortex. It's the function of the brain that houses executive functions like morality, willpower, and impulse control. So there's a lot more going on here than just books in a library. Okay? And you need to keep that into account because you will be held accountable for your vote. Male and female. And Satan is the author of confusion. There needs to be no confusion anywhere. 100 years ago, was there confusion in education systems? I don't think so. Thank you, school board.
Kara Beatty.
My name is Kara. I'm a licensed social worker. And I'm here today after learning about these books just on Friday. I do not take the banning of books lightly. But in this instance, I'm compelled to come here and speak with you guys today. I do strongly believe that we as a society need to represent diverse voices and unique perspectives, but frankly, these particular books contain child sexual abuse material, including topics including grooming, child sex trafficking, rape, incest. Allowing minors to be exposed to this, in my opinion, is child abuse. I acknowledge that some of you have read these books and enjoyed them, and you've recommended them to your family and friends. That's great, that's your right. You're an adult, but that's not your role here. I'm asking for the decision to be made to eliminate these books from the Harlem School District campus. We need to protect our children's hearts and minds while we can. Thank you.
Jeffrey Beatty.
Don't start the timer, I'm coming. I'm coming, don't start the timer.
We'll wait till you get, we'll wait till you get here.
I'm coming.
We'll
All
wait.
right, thank you for having me.
So I'm Jeff. I'm a registered professional nurse. I've been a nurse for 22 years. Many certifications. Basic life support, advanced cardiac life support, pediatric life support, neonatal life support, advanced burn life support, on and on. Let's see. Board certified emergency nurse. Most important to this, I've had lots of DCFS training, lots. Hey. I'm also a SANE nurse, sexual assault nurse examiner. So what does that mean? I've done rape exams, kids, adults, all sorts of people. So all of that gives me the expert ability to discuss what's going on here tonight. Hang on. So let's say what this is and what this isn't. This isn't anti-black, anti-white, anti-LGBTQ, LMNOP. This isn't anti-anything. This isn't an anti-book. We're not banning anything. We're removing books from vulnerable children. That's it, period. What I want to also read, since we brought up sex abuse, if an allegation is raised, this is from the DCFS state statute. If an allegation is raised to the school board during the course of an open or closed school board meeting that a child who's enrolled in a school district of which he or she is a board member thereof, which is you guys, and that allegation is raised of sexual abuse, the school board will direct the superintendent to file DCFS investigation. Now, let's talk about DCFS. What is sex abuse? I can leave these at the end of my talk if you guys want. Sex abuse is any sexual activity with a child. Child sexual abuse can be perpetrated by an adult or by a child who exerts power over another child. Sexual activity can be touching, non-touching. These actions can be fondling, rape, incest, sexual talk, voyeurism, exhibition, pornography, internet crime. Some statistics: 1 out of every 4 girls, 1 out of every 6 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18. Before the age of 18. And we're gonna say that these books are okay in our schools? Okay? Come on, where are we? This is okay to talk about rape and incest? No, no, absolutely not.
Rebecca Carlson.
Good evening, board members. I know you've heard a lot of different ideas and interesting topics tonight. My bottom line with these books, banning them, is it is against federal and state law to have any books that show any type of sexual acts, whether in illustration or in written form, to minors. The section 1466A of Title 18 United States Code makes it illegal for any person, which includes you six, to knowingly distribute with intent to transfer or distribute visual representations such as drawings, cartoons, paintings that appear to depict minors engaged in sexually explicit conduct. This matter involving minors can be deemed obscene if it depicts an image that is or appears to be a minor engaged in graphic bestiality, sadistic or masochistic abuse, or sexual intercourse. These fines can be 5 years to a maximum of 20 years in prison. It is illegal by federal law and Illinois state law to murder someone. It is illegal by both of those to steal from someone. It is illegal by both of those to go above the speed limit. It's illegal by both of those to not pay your taxes. The point I'm getting at here tonight is you've heard all kinds of different ideas about all of these different kinds of books. These books are available, I assume, at the local public library. The school district has no place offering anything that has any sexual of any type to anyone who is a minor. Minors can be as young as 16, but as I've talked to 2 of the board members, and I've had one respond to me who said, no, I would never give one of these to one of my family. Why would you give them to anyone who has any type of listening power to you as to what you recommend? You should be giving books to students that tell them how to read, how to write, how to add, how to subtract, science. Things that are proper education for young people. In Illinois, a person commits obscenity when they deliver or provide any obscene writing, picture, record, or other representation or embodiment of the obscene. They are the same rules that apply both in the federal and in the state format. We are not to be supplying, distributing, offering, or giving acceptance to any material that offers these students any type of sexually explicit material. This is not meant for minors and does not belong in the Harlem School District. Thank you.
Tracy Fenton.
First of all, let's put diversity, gender aside. I love everyone here, and I feel so bad for these children who have got up and spoke about the trauma they have experienced because of gender or race. It's not about the gender and race in these books. And these books, even though some of these kids say they help them in their life now and the trauma they've been through, these books are causing trauma for other children. I just learned of these books. There are visual sexual acts with children made into cartoons performing on adults. I'll piggyback off of what Rebecca said and someone else. That is child abuse. That's pornography. To have these books in the library, it is against the law. A picture of a naked child, which is a naked child performing an act on an adult, a 10-year-old child. A picture of a naked child may constitute illegal child pornography in its sufficiency, sexually suggestive. Additionally, the age of consent of sexual activity in a given state is irrelevant. Any depiction of a minor under 18 years of age engaging in sexually explicit conduct is illegal. And this is in the book, in the library for these children to just freely go and take home and look. I mean, let's face it, all parents don't. I didn't when my children were young. I didn't look at every book my children brought home. And now seeing how some of the children here today, and again, I don't mean this in any condemning way because I feel so sad for what these children go through, but they think it's okay to have these books. That right there should tell us something. We need to take 10 steps back and start over and bring these morals back into the school. What happened to you can't cuss in school? The language in these books is, I'm embarrassed to read them. I'm embarrassed to look at these pictures. I'm embarrassed to have these conversations with these children in here. It makes me uncomfortable. That's gonna stick in their little minds, and what is that going to do? So I just plead to the board to go with your heart, not with what you feel like you're supposed to do and the odd man out, and do what's right. Thank you.
Heather Sharp.
Well, I'm not coming up here to say anything that no one else has already said, and I actually have pictures of what she was just talking about. I actually feel horrible holding them up because I had some eyes trying to look at them. I mean, is this okay? I mean, you have someone here touching themselves while they're driving. What is that teaching people that you're trying to teach how to drive? You have a boy here sucking another boy off. This does not belong in a school. If my neighbor down the road were to give this to my child, guess what? He would be in jail.
Yes.
What makes it okay for a school setting? We don't want these books banned. They do not belong in a school. You want to go down to the library? Go ahead, rent them out. Be who you want to be, but don't teach it to my child.
Eden Brown.
Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, 1984 by George Orwell, and Night by Elie Wiesel all talked about the dangers of book banning and censorship. I personally learned this from your own curriculum, so you'd think it would be a good example to teach your students and follow what you teach. It is obvious that this is not a ban on the contents of the books, but on the minorities they are about. Only one was about straight white people. The rest were about people's lives being black, brown, and or queer. I read through every controversial bit of each of these 8 books. Being familiar with your library, there are many, many books that deal with sex, mature language, and other difficult topics as these books on this list do. The fact that these are the only ones on that list to ban gives an obvious message that these are books that are fine, and the books that detail the lives of minority are not. I cannot speak for your black or brown students, but what I can speak on are the books covering queer topics. Beyond Magenta personally helped me navigate my identity, and I cannot stress how happy that book made me to see. I am not your only student who has felt that way. Banning these books does not erase these concepts from students' knowledge. It just sends a message to those who relate that these books and identities are unwelcome and unsupported. I am highly disappointed in the consideration of removing these titles because it seems as though our class group, Matt, Liam, and I specifically, helped you achieve the bragging point of being an inclusive school alongside a myriad of awards and from various queer advocacy groups, and now that we are either graduated or have passed away, it seems as though you all feel you can take steps back. I am not an activist in just this school. I am still helping schools throughout Illinois, which can include yours through the Liam Foundation and PFLAG. Many of our members are here in support as well. Please do not let our work be done for nothing, and especially the work of Liam Burdick poured into this school be in vain. I would like to add and remind you all that today, May 16th, is the day that Liam Burdick's body was found after completing suicide. I was very proud of what you and us students accomplished together, and I will be highly disappointed if you backtrack after taking immense amounts of praise for years. I highly urge you to keep these titles in rotation and ensure that this school continues to stay inclusive for the happiness and safety of your students who fit in these minority groups. I really hope that I can thank you.
That ends comments from the community. Thank you. Approval of the bills.
All right, well, I'm not gonna do as good of
Can
a
we go
job.
back to number 2, when we did roll call, did we do introductions?
Oh, that's right.
I didn't, did Chris Arduino and Troy?
Yeah.
Yes.
She did.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Turn me off.
All right. So approval of the bills, Mr. Rand normally does this, so as you can tell, I'm not him, so I'll try to do an admirable job here, but if I don't, he's always willing to take emails, so there you go.
Come to the meeting.
Come-
More detail,
or come to the
fantastic,
meetings.
plenty of seats.
All right, so payables summary here, total payables equals $1,405,400.01. As you can see, what the summary is about there, voided checks is $7,066.84. I will go down to total payroll as well. That is $5,641,783.10. Total expenditures being $7,047,183.11. And then summary by fund, educational is $6,127,519.36. Our tort is $10,682.93. Operations is $326. $1,892.64. Transportation is $427,772.13. And then IMRF Social Security is $154,316.05. So that is the payable summary. Is there any questions that I can try to answer?
Motion to approve the bills.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. O'Meara?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Hogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Rowland?
Abstain.
Communications and committee reports. Next regular board meeting will be June 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Can I get a recommendation to approve the 2022-2023 board and committee meeting calendar?
Discussion?
Yeah.
Can we consider changing the education committee start time to 4:30?
It'll count me out for that one, unfortunately. I've shown up a couple times, but yeah, 4:30.
No, then I would rather you be there, Mr.
Yeah,
Thompson.
I try.
I know
Not
you
always,
do.
but at least try to
know
get there
you
when I
do.
can. But
Okay.
4:30 will put that out of at least, in most cases, that range.
Good. Action item.
You just go to the next, no, just go to the next one.
Recommendation to rescind the motion made at the 4/25/2022 board meeting as to the subcommittee recommendation and for more discussion.
Just to remind the board, this motion needs to come from someone who voted against it at the last meeting.
Yes. So someone that voted no would have to.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Somebody who voted no, it has to.
make the motion.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? During open meeting at that board meeting, we talked about this in open meeting, that we would continue to follow policy. So is what this saying then, is you're recommending that we start the process over and follow policy?
This recommendation says that we take the vote that was done 2 weeks ago and rescind it.
So we're gonna start the process again?
The process doesn't move, then it goes back to that next vote that's gonna be on this agenda.
So we're still voting on the same recommendation?
Correct, but this time it would, first we have to vote to either rescind or not rescind. If we don't rescind, then the next line doesn't matter.
This time we're going book by book instead of as a whole. Because last time it was all or nothing, now this time it's gonna be done book by book.
Okay, even in our discussion that was open, was even what we were actually voting on was not clear. We thought that it was potentially some books may go back to committee. After legal review, we banned all those books. If that was your intention or not, I don't think that did. I think we need to rescind this so we can have an open discussion to that point.
The way it came in the last meeting was, it was a zero sum, either all passed or all failed.
And I don't even think we truly knew at that point. We knew that we rescinded it, but we did not know. I believe that you can go to the tape of like, we're going to have to check with legal to
Correct.
see what we actually did.
But, and that's what we talked about. I mean, you follow the policy, and I think that that's what we're supposed to do, is follow the policy. If we're gonna look at these books again, why wouldn't we follow the policy?
What's clarification on how we would not be following the policy?
Well, if what we're saying is the recommendation was on all the books.
The recommendation, the way it came back through the agenda was one block of voting item. This time, we're breaking that same, we're not breaking policy, we're just changing how we're gonna vote on those items.
I guess to your point, right, is by us lumping it, do we do it over again as a lump sum again, or do we have to alter policy to do it book by book? Where was the policy done? Can anyone speak to that?
Yeah, and that's kind of that's why I wanted to clarify it at the last meeting. What did it mean? And I thought at that time, we had said that that meant that we would start it over again. So this is different than what we had said at the last meeting.
I mean, I think we have the opportunity. Like, I personally would not be opposed to starting over. If there needs to be, if we go to that point and we do it to procedure and we do it by book and we do
Yeah,
the
you
records,
should always do
I think
it.
that absolutely should be done
Yeah.
completely. I think we took this one as a miss. I think we need to make sure that we can do it by book basis, but it needs to be done. And then if there's anything that we need to discuss about how the policy is done as we've gotten here and we can review, because there's great points even made of like, this is done currently with librarians and teachers. I think that's important, but clearly the community matters as well. Like,
Agreed.
there are things that can be done and things that can be set because it impacts it all. So yes, I think we need to rescind, because I think we got here with assumptions, and that's not where you wanna go without any predefined assumptions. We go back and we do it to the policy. And at that point, if we need to pause this, collectively we can do that very carefully. This policy is not what's gonna happen now. What we do here tracks until someone changes it. We may not all be in these seats. There might be half the people that want us gone, and there might be half the people that want more of us. 10 years from now, we don't know where that is, but what that policy is there matters. And we have to be
Yes.
very careful with this.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So to your point, yes, policy needs to be done to the T. I think rescinding, what that does is we apologize for not understanding the gravity of what we did last time, and then we make sure we do it properly.
Thank you.
So,
So this is to rescind the decision.
yeah, because we're just taking a consensus, because it has to be a voting item later. So I need consensus to rescind,
The board's vote
Yeah.
on the recommendation.
board's vote on 42522 for the subcommittee recommendation.
Yes, okay.
But what you just stated would change what we would do on the recommendation
Correct.
on
I think
A4.
I still think, I think we do this one, and then we can have the discussion.
But we're gonna have to word it that way when we talk about it.
I'm all for you.
Okay.
You do the magic work. I think we just need to make sure this is done. To your point, it needs to be done correctly. So whatever's you're doing to move forward that matter.
I understand.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
This is,
This
okay,
is just
this is for the rescission of the last
board
board
meeting,
meetings. All,
And then all the books will go back to what?
as of right now, it's in limbo, because all we're doing is reversing that ban, and then we haven't gone any further.
We could reverse this ban, have a discussion, and reban every one of them. There was nothing that's stopping us from doing that. It's just saying, our choice that we made at the last session, we did not understand it. We literally said,
Well, we did
need.
understand, we spoke with it, we
We
spoke
did,
about
but
it.
at the end of it, we literally said, we need to send this to the lawyer because we don't know what actions were taken. And you may have assumptions at that point, and that's fair, but I don't think anyone, we have tapes to prove it, I don't think anyone knows full-heartedly what that decision was being made. And if your assumption was correct, that just means your assumption was correct. I don't think we had a consensus that we truly knew what that was going to do. And no one here at a different level outside of the board could answer that, and legal was not here.
So we have checked with legal, and this
But
was.
this consensus is regarding just the rescinding
Yes.
of the vote to deny the recommendation. That's what we're
Right.
doing now.
Then you're starting at, basically, you're at zero.
We're not approving the recommendation
Right.
either.
Right, we are not
Right,
approving
because
that.
you're gonna go through each book separately. The challenge was for all 8 books. We thought we had to have a vote on all 8 books at one time, one vote. We have found out since we can vote book by book.
But we're gonna
And
follow
Sue-
policy.
Yes,
It's
but
still policy.
Okay, we're gonna follow policy. That's all I care about, as long as we follow policy.
Yeah.
because remember, Barogan, you did want to pull a book.
Yes, I did.
From those 8.
And I was told it was all or nothing.
Yeah, that's-
Exactly,
that's-
and
That was the
then-
assumption that was made.
And
yes.
that was the incorrect assumption. So, as Mike said, it's an error on all of our parts in that we thought because it was written with 8 books, we had to vote
It
that way.
was.
And you specifically asked. And
Yes, I did.
we basically denied that, and now we're going back to rescind that to give you all a chance to vote the correct way. Am I correct, counsel?
You got it. Yes.
To follow policy.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
It's not going back to the review committee, it's just
Right.
coming back to us.
Correct.
What's the policy say?
We're rescinding the last choice.
It-
Okay.
This is the best part.
I'm sorry, I'm
That's
doing
something to be gone.
too many things at once here. Too many things at once.
Right.
Consensus on rescinding.
Yes, can I
by
just, I'm looking
consent.
for consensus?
No.
No.
Sorry, making sure. So yes to rescinding?
Yes.
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 Okay,
So all are consenting except for Sue, who said no.
correct.
So it's not unanimous.
All right, so the next one. The recommendation to approve the removal or retention of the challenge books in the high school library on a book-by-book basis under action item 13D as follows. So we're gonna do this.
13.
So I take a consensus on Lawn Boy, a novel.
I thought we were gonna follow the policy.
Yeah, shouldn't we do the policy? Shouldn't these go back and go
I
through the
think-
same
Yeah, I
procedure?
thought that's what we just talked about, is following the policy.
Take it away.
The policy
You can go
does-
ahead.
So my understanding, I'm not the attorney who checked it, but my understanding from Chris Petrarca, who is the attorney who checked it, is you followed policy the last time around by going through the review committee with the librarians and the teachers. That still is in compliance with your policy right this moment. If you want to change your policy to include the community or any other party, that would need to be a separate board vote, change the policy, and if you wanted to revisit this issue with that new committee looking at it again, you would have to postpone tonight's vote on all 8 books, or make a decision tonight and come back and revisit that decision through that new policy later on. Questions about
So what you're saying is we're not gonna follow the policy?
What I'm saying is you are following your policies as they stand right this moment.
What does the policy say?
That's that 2 librarians, and I believe it's 2 teachers. Dr. Yarborough, you can help me out with
Right,
this.
the policy right now is stating that we already have recommendations, so we took away last 2 weeks' vote, right? So now we're back to that recommendation by the subcommittees for each one of these books. But before, the way we had the vote, it was all or nothing. We either agreed on all the books or disagreed on all the books. There was, how many different committees? There was 8 different.
So we, from
No,
the,
4.
right, from the very beginning, we followed policy to a T. The only place where we got confused, which has been talked about around the table, is when the subcommittee's recommendation, which is what I shared at the last board meeting, we just didn't know that we could separate the books and vote on them individually. But everything else, though, we followed. There was a challenge, right? That happened.
A second challenge.
I'm talking now. You
But you were
good?
telling-
No,
Okay.
no, I'm talking now. There was a challenge, right? That starts the process. Then the librarian meets with the challenger. That happened, right? Then according to policy, the challenger, if there could not be something that was met at that first one, would meet with me. That happened. Because after that meeting with me, there couldn't be a resolution, then there needed to be a subcommittee that was formed. A subcommittee was formed of more than just 2 librarians and 2 teachers. We had a total of 8 people that dedicated their time to reviewing all 8 books. The recommendation from the subcommittee, according to policy, was to keep all 8 books at our library. That's when we brought it forth to the education committee to hear it. There was no questions there. So then we brought it to the board. Again, where we were confused was, because at the time, we wanted to split it up. We didn't want to just take the subcommittee's recommendation all or nothing. We wanted to split it up. We didn't know that. That's a discussion that happened around this table. We voted, but we didn't know how we were voting. We talked to legal. Legal told us we can bring it back for reconsideration. That's where we're here today.
So this vote that Mr. Sterling just read just splits the books up for consideration between his board into 8 separate votes if you want to go that route.
To go to the, to go through policy,
To either,
and to go
to either
to the
retain in your
committee,
library or to
No, not to
not.
go back, it's already there. So we can either table it, there's 2 options here. We can either not, we
follow.
table it and then put it back to a policy,
Yes.
or we go through each one. But if we do that, then we'd have to stop, not read this line, rescind it, and then we have to vote on sending it back. Is that correct?
I think that's fair. I think I follow what you just said. But if I understood what Mr. Sterling just said, what he's saying is vote on this, break it up into 8 separate votes. You give thumbs up or thumbs down depending on your own personal preferences on that one. Or you could not vote this and vote instead to table it for a future meeting and look at your policy and see if you want to make any amendments to
Those are
that
our 2
policy.
options.
So, yeah, I guess I'm more, and again, I think I've been as honest with you guys as I could possibly be in saying, I really think that it's important to follow policy. If when we followed policy, we voted not to take the recommendation, now we need to go back and say, okay, then we need to work through this to come up with those recommendations that the board is comfortable with. And the policy says what to do. And I just think we should just follow the policy.
We are following the policy. We can just vote on individual books instead of as a whole.
Right, we undid one thing, so then we're separating them out. It's kind of a
Still
policy change that we're doing, but to your point, we have to be, like I said, we have to be careful, to your point, like, we are all starting to alter the policy. This would give us a pause to do it in a professional manner of, this is the right way to alter a policy, to your point, with that pause.
Yeah.
Or we do the alteration where we're at least doing it book by book. I think it's fair that that alteration does not seem out of character, unless someone sees anywhere that could be abused. I think the lumping is a scarier one. You could throw in any book you wanted, and there could be an encyclopedia, you could block it when you lump it together. It's a change, but I think this is better. So we have to be okay with that, and that's part of this discussion. I think the bigger part is, do we do it book by book, which is almost by policy? Or do we pause it, see what we do with during the paused interim, and then do we review this policy in a more policy of the policy, the procedural way of doing it? And I struggle with both, personally. So I'm with you, and I look to the group for thoughts on that.
Well, if we change the policy, we're gonna have to,
Well, I don't
This is
think
not
change
a-
the, no, don't change the policy.
If we don't
Follow
change-
the policy for each book.
If we
Just
follow the
go back.
policy
what
for
we
each
are
book,
doing.
then that's his point,
That's
get
what we
thumbs
did
up
do.
and
So
thumbs down
what
each
we're
book.
saying is we do accept the recommendation of the,
You're going to consider that book by book.
Yeah,
It
we're
takes
gonna
us back to
consider
the
that.
last one, but now we can do it book by book instead of lumping them together. That is the only thing that we are doing.
that's not the recommendation that I heard. I'm sorry.
they recommended that we keep all 8 books.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And we can agree with them on
Each book.
each
by
book,
right,
or
basically.
disagree with them on each book.
And maybe I'm thinking nits or splitting hairs or whatever, but yeah, if the recommendation was on 8 books, but we say we're gonna not do either of the things, we're not gonna address the challenge that was made or the recommendation, we're gonna do something different.
We are.
Are we
Well,
doing
yeah,
any?
that's
We're
what it
going
sounds
through
like.
book by book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're not following the policy.
We are following the policy that
Does the
way.
policy dictate that they have to be lumped together, or was
No.
that the assumption? that was
No,
made?
it was our
Because the challenge can be for a single book. It doesn't
It
have
was
to be
just
for 8
the-
books. It
was
happens
just the
to
way
be.
that
in
it was
this
brought to you guys to vote on.
Fair.
Was in a lump. And because it was read that way and voted that way.
That's what you did.
That's what we did.
Sure.
So now we are undoing that, which we already basically have done until we in consensus.
So we are not altering policy by doing book by
No, we're
book.
doing it by policy.
Okay.
We are doing it we're following policy.
If it makes it easier to think about it in this way, you could think of it as 8 separate challenges, all of which have now gone through the policy if you want to do it 8 separate votes.
I mean, they have been reviewed, I
And it's
get
the
that
same,
part of it.
it's the same analysis either way.
They got separated out for the review and they've come back together, all we're doing is separating them back out.
Okay.
So at this point, you have the original subcommittee recommendation that has been rescinded.
Correct.
So you're at ground zero, and now you have the opportunity to vote on each book, Larry, separately, and if there's any discussion as to any book, that can entail, instead of just lumping everything together.
Chris, did Mr. Sterling finish reading the proposed recommendation to split it book by book?
No,
I
he
don't
has
think he
not.
did. So
No, I haven't
we want to
Right.
Yeah, I
make
have
sure
to
we go
start-
through
I have
that
to
correctly.
start that over again.
Yep.
Okay. I need a recommendation to approve the removal of or retention of the challenge books in the high school library on a book-by-book basis under action item 13D as follows. Lawn Boy, a novel. Monday's Not Coming, a novel. Gender Queer, a memoir. Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out, The Bluest Eye, Out of Darkness, I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, The Opposite of Innocent. Motion?
You just need to.
Oh, yeah, no, consensus,
right
sorry, yeah.
now, and then you'll vote.
Sue. Kurt?
Rescinding?
No, it's,
No,
no,
just splitting the-
approve the
it's
removal
just-
or retention.
Okay.
It's
removal or
splitting it
retention.
into 8
This is the
parts.
vote.
That's all we're doing here. Yes. Or not doing,
Yes.
to be clear.
Evelyn?
I'm still thinking.
Yeah. Joe?
So, and then we will discuss the books and then vote on each one. Okay,
Yeah, later, 13:16.
yes.
Larry?
No, we need to follow policy.
Yes.
Evelyn?
I would like to read each book. It's just a lot of stuff about this stuff that bothers me. It's like when you don't agree with people, you have people thinking you're homophobic or anti this and that, you know, racist, and that's not it. And with this stuff that's happening now, it's making people afraid to even speak out. Just because you speak out against them don't mean that you dislike the person. You have an understanding about this that might not be clear, but that doesn't make you dislike a person. And this country is just getting so scary. I mean, pretty soon people are gonna be afraid to voice their opinions about anything. You can't even touch a person these days without somebody seeing sexual harassment. It's scary, and you know, like when I think about one of these books, if it was in picture form, black and white, with human beings doing the sexual acts that they're doing, would that be in our library? No.
Couldn't even put it on a t-shirt.
I know, and kids can't even go to the movie theater without a parent to see certain things. So a lot of this stuff bothers me, but does that make me homophobic? No, and I wish people would stop saying, just because we don't agree with what you might not want us to do, that doesn't mean we're homophobic. I have people of different sexual orientations in my family. I have people of different colors in my family. But just because I might not agree with some of this coming to school for kids, and it's just some things that kind of bothers me, and there's some things I understand, but I want our young kids to be able to grow up and enjoy being a child, because we're gonna always get older, we're never gonna get younger. And if we go pushing stuff into them with sex and all of this, and I know, you know, I feel sorry for you guys, what you experienced, you know, and I'm glad that now we're able to talk about it, but just because I might not agree with some of the stuff this book had doesn't mean I'm homophobic. So I wish whoever's saying that would stop. Until you get to know me, don't judge me. I have a problem with that. And I'm just saying, we're just setting this world up and people up to be afraid to voice their own opinions about something because they're scared of people retaliating. And we have to get out of that. We have to start coming back, loving each other for what you are, being accepting for what you are, because we have kids that are killing themselves because people don't agree with what they're going through. We don't know what people are going through that have sexual, you know, different sexual orientations, but that doesn't make them a bad person. And just because I'm black doesn't make me a bad person. And my grandkids, they're all biracial, that doesn't make them bad. All my son-in-laws are white, that doesn't make them bad. God made us to be a melting pot to love everybody, regardless of what our differences is. And it just bothers me to see the hatred and people not being able to express themselves, and it's getting scary every day. You have people that are killing themselves because they can't express how they feel, who they want to love, or when you see a person of a different color with another person of a different color, people saying things about, let people love who they want to love. That's what God wants us all to do. That's why this country was meant. That's why we're the land of the free. But it's beginning to be not like that no more. We have so much hatred in this world, and COVID really brought out the hatred in a lot of people. And I'm sorry, maybe I'm going overboard, but it just bothers me. I just cannot stand to see what this community is coming to. It's terrible. We got to start being like we used to be. This Harlem school district used to be one of the top districts in this Illinois, and I love working in this district. But when I see people arguing, making fun of people, scaring people, and making people afraid to voice their opinion or be able to wear what they want to wear, that's not right. And some of these books, I haven't read all of them, some of them I have, and until people walk in people's shoes, who are we to judge? We got to start being more compassionate and realizing God made us all different, and people cannot help who they choose to love or what color they are or what size they are or whatever. This hatred has got to end, because this world is definitely becoming a scary place to live in. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to go overboard, but I'm just tired of it.
You're fine, Evelyn.
So, consensus?
I'm still undecided.
Sue said no.
Oh, Sue said no.
Yeah. We have four yes.
You have
And we have consensus. I'll move this on. Joe Brogan.
Oh, all right. First up, next policy committee meeting, June 20th, 2022 at 6 p.m. I want to thank everybody for their comments from the community. Thank you, Maple students and Ms. Bork. We had a lot of comments, a lot of interesting things that were said tonight. Let's see. I was able to go to the high school jazz concert. That was awesome. The kids did a wonderful job. The Golden Apple dinner, Miss Yuska and I'm having a moment. I know it. Miss Van Sickle, thank you. I knew it was because I heard the first name. They did a great job. Able to go to the dinner for our retirees and our 20-plus year staff members. That was a great time. It was great to see so many people that have been in the district for so long. It was sad to see so many people that were leaving, but we thank them for their time, their service, and we appreciate them. And I would really love to see this type of steam from everybody when it comes to the bullying in the district, when it comes to the fighting in this district. I would really love to see everybody come together and as a whole, I mean, we don't see this type of engagement when it comes to when there's problems with bullying, when there's problems with fighting or anything like that, and it's sad. It's sad, and I would really love to see everybody come together because this is a district-wide problem. That's all I have to say.
Jill, there's one correction. We're moving policy committee to June 27th. The June 20th from that here.
Okay. Next
It's
policy
the
committee will be
following
June 27th, not June 20th, at 6 p.m. And then recommendation to approve first readings of policy updates from April 20th, 2022 policy committee meeting. What? Do I have to say that? And that is all I have.
Evelyn Meeks.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry if I offended anybody. I didn't want to. I just want us all to try to just communicate with each other and try to understand what everybody's going through instead of everyone. I think like the communication is a key. If we ever get together and just talk and try to see what the other person is going through, we can do some better things in this world. We all gotta come together. and try to work as one and understand what another person is going through and what a person believes. And just because a person is a certain way doesn't make them a bad person. We got to start getting our heart back and just start showing more compassion. But I'll stop. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to carry on. But first, I like the artwork. Thank Emily Borg and the assistant principal and the Maple Elementary students for doing the pledge. They did an amazing job. I also want to say I attended the Teachers Appreciation, and I want to congratulate the teachers that are retired and all the teachers for their years of services. And we really do appreciate the teachers, staff, administrators, everybody in this district. Regardless of what position you have, you are definitely appreciated. I attended the Special Olympics, and just to go and watch those children, it just makes me realize how blessed I am to be able to do what I can do and to see them doing and not giving up, you know, running around the track and getting their medals and showing you their medals. They are some amazing children, and they're a blessing to this world to make you realize and appreciate what you have, to see them do what they're doing. I also want to thank each and every one of you that came out and spoke this evening, the community. Like I always tell you, feel free to talk to me anytime about anything, your comments and concerns. We really do appreciate it, and just because we might not respond in a timely fashion doesn't mean we don't care. Always remember that. This Thursday, May 19th, at the high school in the Commons at 4:30, we'll have a social and equity and social justice meeting. Oh, and I attended the high school band. Oh, we have our band director is awesome. He was a student here, and he came back, and that band, I think it's like, how many bands was it? Four?
I think there was 4.
Or 5 or 6. I'm going overboard just in case it was. I can't remember. But they are really good, so we got to start supporting our students if we can, because I know with the COVID, it changes a lot of people's schedules, and it's hard to do things. You can't, but if you ever get a chance, go out and check our band out. And that, what's the band director's name?
Tim Perry.
Oh, yeah.
He's an awesome guy, and his students really do appreciate him. And I think that's all. It's something I'm forgetting, but that's it. But like I said, I thank each and every one of you for coming out this evening. And I didn't mean to preach a sermon, but thank you again for coming out.
You only said sorry 3 times, I think? Pretty good.
I'll say it again.
Keeping the average low.
Kurt Thompson.
Sure. I'm so glad, again, as always, being able to get students in to do the pledge. It's fantastic to see the students from Maple come in to do that. Excellent there. I have a list of all these fantastic things that students have done. One, hopefully we'll see those in the next meeting when it comes across. Also, if you're not following the Harlem page on Facebook, you should. You get to see great pictures, the updates that's there. There's so many, from the paw print program, which is so fantastic, and just seeing the pictures from the preschool prom, they're adorable. It's fantastic in the work they're doing. All the certifications that those students have gone and how they can utilize those in their future are excellent. What a fantastic program that is. We've got our math teams that are winning at state. We've got track and field qualifiers. We've got Golden Apple scholars that better come back here to teach, otherwise I'm gonna save these names. All the athletic signings that are going on, all these futures that are going through this time of year is so fantastic to see all the pride that we have, and seeing that come out in our students and their accolades and their achievement is fantastic. The Fine Arts Talent Show. My daughter might have been in it, but still, if you got a chance to see it, it was awesome besides just that reason. Just to see all these talents and all these skills from the grade school coming through, and seeing that family participation. The line to get in to McChesney Park was awesome. It was literally a rock concert to get in and out there. The team did fantastic for managing it, seeing all the artwork. It's great as we get past COVID at this point and seeing these things and seeing the parent participation really there and seeing what the students do. So excellent there as well. Again, the community involvement, especially on topics like this, it's still good to see out this. Everyone has their own opinions. And to see where these are all heartfelt and where they're coming from. And hey, I get nervous coming up here and just speaking in this part to kind of ramble through stuff that's important. But to do these things that are heartfelt and the time that is taken, these aren't things you just come up, I'm going to show up to a board meeting and make something. These things that are integral and matter, and we know that. And I listen to every single word that everyone's saying as it comes through to this. And we have things to the point Larry says, that principles and policies need to be there. It doesn't, you know that the emotions are there. And I appreciate everyone that comes out to do that. We listen, every email that comes through, I read, I take research from that, everything that I can, so keep doing it. We may not respond to everything, but know that there is not an email that goes by that does not get read, reviewed by myself, and I'm sure everyone on the board says the same exact thing. It's very important. I don't think anyone on this board takes this job lightly, and it's moments like this that you can see it in our emotions, the twitch of the hands. This is important stuff for not us, forget us. It's important stuff for our community and our school district, and it's not to be done lightly. So that being said, I'm going to circle back to some good stuff. Graduation's coming up. I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. We're going to be back at, I know it's BMO, but we're here. It's Metro Center. Thank you. I can't wait to get back to the Metro Center. Congratulate all the students. Another taste of normalcy. Although last year was fantastic and amazing, they get to keep that. And just going back to that, so it's fantastic. I can't wait to see that again. And then, you know, I have a large audience, so pause real quick, because we have another meeting coming up here, and the date on that was the next Business Services Committee meeting, June 8th, 6 o'clock. Coming up here, come in. You get to listen to Josh. You missed him today. He's excellent to go through. We go to deeper dive for everything that is related to budgets, concerns, things that are come addressed, things you hear briefly at this board, go into far more detail at that meeting. So again, plenty of seats for that. We normally come and see it. That ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for the work that you have done and sharing that with the board. I really appreciate it.
You as well, seriously.
Larry Smith.
I have to also say thank you, whoever put that art up there. Truly appreciate it.
It needs to go over here.
It's right. The superintendent's sitting right next to you, man.
No, right there. Look at that. Look. The daughter's right there. Look, we're going to turn around. We're going to turn around and be right there. Sorry. Go ahead, Larry.
The art is beautiful, and I truly do appreciate it. And what Ms. Brogan had said about that retirement and award ceremony, what struck me, and I wish I would have done the hard research and got the numbers. I just did it quick in my head, but that had to be 25% of those school district personnel that are 20 years or more in the district. Is that about right? It was huge, the percentage of staff that have been in this district for 20 or more years. It says a lot about the district and about what a good district it is and the commitment that our staff have made. Also, I would like to thank everybody who presented here. That's not easy to get up in front of a group of people and present your feelings and your ideas. So I just truly do applaud. And again, like Ms. Meeks had said, I truly appreciate the group who brought these books forward and the support that they have shown for the LGBTQ community. I think we all need to look at that and say, yes, it's the LGBTQ community, communities of color are important, and we do have to pay attention to them. So thank you very much for bringing this whole matter forward. It is important. And also what's very important is education committee. And it's going to be June 21st, so we're going to do a whole solstice motif for the education committee.
Perfect. Be closer towards sun falling down when we don't change the time.
Yeah, this
There you
June 21st, day's going to start getting shorter. That means it's getting closer and closer to next school year, so we can do more great things.
Oh, you'll have a lot of fans there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Sue Brogan.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the Maple students for coming out. I know they were very intimidated by the big crowd tonight, and it was very much appreciated, the job that they did and the assistance they had and support from their school. I'd like to thank everybody for speaking tonight. I'd like to agree with Evelyn on a couple of facts. Fact number one, if it makes you feel better because we disagree with the books to call us homophobic, that's fine. My issue with the books are not male on male, not female on female, not any of that. It's all of it. Because it wouldn't matter to me if it's male and female, female and male, male and male, female or female. We're supposed to provide age appropriate. According to our policy, we're supposed to provide age appropriate material for our students. And that includes the library, not just the classroom. Policy 6:60-AP revolves around that policy of age appropriate. And there is nowhere in any store, any community, where somebody of the age of 14 can purchase a book that shows males and females naked together. You have to be over the age of 18. Our high schoolers are age 14 to 18. That's inappropriate for that age group. That is why I voted no on those books. My opinion, personal or otherwise, doesn't matter. The law says you must be 18. I'm not trying to ban a book because who wrote it. Didn't look at who wrote it. I don't always know authors' names. I don't know actors' names. I can tell you what scenes I like in movies or what movies are my favorite. Can't tell you who wrote the movie, anything like that. It's not a matter of color and it's not a matter of sexual preference. That ends my report.
I'm just gonna ditto off of what everybody said, because I'm last, and Evelyn and I have been doing a lot of things together. We went to the band concerts, we, went together for this staff appreciation, which was amazing, and, that's all I have to say right now.
Okay, thank you. Turning it over to administrative reports, Dr. Michelle Erb.
Thank you. I have several items this evening. First of all, is some overnight travel. Attached was a varsity volleyball camp this summer, July 17th through the 19th at Central Michigan University. But the two new ones, as Mr. Thompson stated, we have had a couple track athletes who qualified for state. So the first overnight is for this weekend. They will be competing in Charleston, Illinois. The second one is the following weekend. The boys will find out this week who will qualify. And so this is in hopes that we have some qualifiers for that meet as well. So are there any questions about any of the overnights?
None for me. Anybody? Okay.
All right, for the second item, it is an MOU between Harlem and Rock Valley College. I'm going to ask Mr. Hubert to come forward. He's been working with Rock Valley College on this agreement.
All right, I'm requesting for the approval of the intergovernmental agreement between RVC and Harlem School District for dual and articulated credit. You guys have already had the opportunity to approve the agreement for Running Start specifically. This one had some changes to it based on two main points. The two main points are that RVC does want the opportunity to come in to see and evaluate the courses to make sure it is in accordance with alignment of the college standards. Anything RVC provides through that course evaluation will only go towards RVC's evaluation of the course itself and will not be counted towards the evaluation of the instructor or the Harlem classes. That's something that would occur through our evaluation process in accordance with the Illinois School Code and our agreement. The other four main points go on based on, I think it was House Bill 3950 that we discussed last time as far as providing students, making sure students with 504s and IEPs are provided with those opportunities. We will end up, so students are guaranteed to have their 504 and IEP accommodations and modifications met through the dual and articulated classes. We will share a Google Sheet with Rock Valley College that indicates what those accommodations and modifications are. There will be regular communication established about the student progress, performance, and individual needs for our students with IEPs and 504s. And there is the confidentiality agreement to ensure that all that information is kept confidential between the two entities. So I'm asking for your approval tonight on the intergovernmental agreement between RVC and Harlem School District for dual and articulated credit.
Did you get an answer on the IDs?
I did not get an answer on the IDs. I got an answer on some other questions, but not on the IDs.
Okay.
What was the question on IDs?
IDs, I said, well, if they're gonna be getting credit from RVC, aren't they technically also a RVC student? Would they get get an ID so they could use facilities? So he's gonna get an answer back.
Good question.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, hey, just had to ask.
Right.
Yeah.
Get some perks, why not?
Yeah, why not?
So as I told you, I have several different items this evening. The next one is the Harlem Consolidated District Plan. This is something that I bring to the board each year. So why do we need to have a plan? We're fortunate as a district because when we make decisions with the grant funds and local funds, we do talk amongst departments. So Director of Elementary Ed, Director of Secondary Ed, Multicultural Education, and Student Support Services all have those conversations occurring. But that's not what happens in all school districts. So one of the things that the state has put in place is putting together a plan that's submitted to the state instead of each grant turned in separately. And we really have to look at how we're working together with those funding sources as we move forward. So grants that are included in this, Title I, II, and IV are one consolidated grant. That's known as the Every Student Succeeds Act. Title III is for multilingual education. Your IDEA grants, and there are a few consolidated grants there. Those are for students with special needs. And then we have the ESSER II and ESSER III. You don't see ESSER I on there because that grant has been used at this point.
So the way that we have to work together as a team of directors and our assistant superintendent, Dr. Erb, is we get together and we take a look at what are the needs of the district as a whole. It's done through a variety of different ways of gathering that information, surveys of staff, surveys of other stakeholders, our school improvement feedback. Me personally, I take a look at staff workloads for all of our specialized related service providers, being like psychologists, social workers, speech pathologists. So it's kind of a complicated process that we take care of in order to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our students in every building. We also take a look at our report cards, 5 essential information, and then looking at our school improvement and Title I plans. And then a part of some of the grants that were listed, we also provide services to our local private parochial schools. So for me, for instance, for students with IEPs that are in our private parochial schools, we service students that attend those schools, and that would be Concordia and, oh my gosh, St. Bridget, thank you. Whereas the title grants are a little bit different. They actually follow the student for where they're attending. So that's why there's a lot other schools that are listed here that aren't necessarily within our Harlem district boundaries.
So one piece of the consolidated report that we speak to is student achievement. With this, we align with one of the ISB goals for student learning. And we do this in many ways by addressing student achievement. We look at the whole child, so looking at well-aligned resources, our textbooks and that meeting the standards of the course. And we look at social emotional learning. We utilize second step at the elementary school and Harvard at secondary. In addition, we'll provide targeted and specific PD to our staff throughout the year. And we also have a lot of ways that we support our teachers and our staff, whether that is through literacy specialists working with our students who are struggling with reading at the elementary level, our professional development specialists, and then at the secondary level, our department chairs as well. So this also applies not only to student achievement through our gen ed, but it also applies to our IDEA grants, our Title III grants, so as we're looking at all students.
So our college and career pathways, and these efforts are aligned with the state goal. We work heavily off the PACE framework. We are continuing to build partnerships. There's a number of people who are working to build partnerships and try to build up opportunities for our students. We continue to expand on our pathway opportunities and for our students to earn industry recognized credentials and college credits in these pathways. Last year we had 8 course offerings that students were able to earn dual credit towards future pathways. Next year we'll be offering 14 classes. I also have been in discussion with Rock Valley College about a couple of other possible opportunities, and if we can get some of those, just a couple other things aligned, we'll be able to make an amendment to even add probably about another 6 to 8 courses in there for the future. So we've offered 2 career fairs this year. That won't necessarily be the norm in the future, but since our students haven't had those opportunities in the past, it was something that we did offer to all students, grades 7 through 12 this year. We use Zello as a career inventory and an opportunity for students to future plan. And we just continue to work up and build partnerships to offer work-based learning opportunities for students.
So for the professional development, we've aligned to the Elevating Educators ISB standard. And what research shows is that the most effective professional development is job embedded. So we use our PD specialists, our MTSS facilitators, and instructional technology specialists that way. We also have a 2-year new teacher mentoring program, so anybody new to the profession or within the first 3 years does take part in a 2-year program. Then we also had the needs assessment that Mrs. Lang referred to earlier. So after each professional development, we ask for feedback, and then we also in the spring ask for what future professional development our educators would like to see in the upcoming school year. And then our ALICE training, we want to make sure that our students and staff are safe.
Any question?
No, I think that there's a lot more than just Alice training going on with all the drills and the revisions of the crisis.
We have lots and lots of professional
Yeah,
developments. We
yeah,
could go on and on.
yeah.
All right, so looking at Title I specific, we have aligned to 2 of the ISB goals for both student learning and learning conditions. And so the way we have done this in the past is we've really utilized each of the SIP days, where half the day is focused on a district focus, the other half the day is building focused, where they identify their needs and work through professional development on those focused topics. We provide training on a variety of topics. We have our LIT specialists, our PDS and our MTSS facilitators that are part of this. We utilize our psychs and our social workers for social emotional needs. And then our 8 1st through 6th grade, or from Marquette 1st through 3rd and Martesney 4th through 6th, are our Title I school-wide buildings. And we have chosen to focus on those early grades to provide that targeted service early on.
All right. Our safe learning environment is also aligned to ISB's goal, which is to provide and equip our students with a safe social, emotional learning environment along with the academics. We do have a couple of programs I believe Ms. Lang mentioned earlier. Second Step in the elementary schools and Harbor in the secondary. We also have PBIS, We also have a committee of student behavior where all the administrators and stakeholders meet in order to be on the same page as far as providing all the support that our students need throughout the district and also our families. What we currently have for foster care transportation, our district has developed a plan, and Sherry Tucker is the one that works closely with Don West, who is our transportation director, on providing the best support that the student needs when it comes to the transportation. The SAFT is the Student and Family Transition Coordinator, okay? So they're the ones that work together in order to provide the support that those families need. She also provides the staff a flow chart so they know exactly what steps to take when we have a student or a family in need.
So then the next steps will be at the next board meeting. I will be asking for approval. We'll continue to work with meet with the private parochial school. So we have to meet individually with each school and listen to what their needs are as well. Implement the plan as written, which is really geared towards those ISB goals. And then continue to evaluate our SIP and Title I plans, making any necessary changes. Each school has a plan each year, and then they'll be working on updating it over the summer. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Good job.
And I have one more item.
Yeah.
Since Josh wasn't here, I decided to step in. So my last item tonight, it has to do with making an adjustment to the behavior matrix. One of the things that has, and I believe it was Ms. Dominguez who brought it up, that we have our administrators who get together, we look at our discipline data, our behavior data every month. And so one of the things that came up is that there's been an increasing number of students who have been using vapes and selling vapes, but we really didn't feel like it fit in a good spot anywhere in the matrix. So the recommendation today is to add the code SMD, which is the distribution of vaping or tobacco, and then to also add vaping as part of the SMO, which is the use for smoking. This is how it would lay out into the matrix. We have seen it in the elementary level. That's why it does go to the 2nd through 4th grade. And you know, as far as what that looks like in 2nd and 4th grade, as you're working through that with a student, it looks very different than when it's a high schooler. But recommendation came from our administrators, our assistant principals at all levels. And this too, I will ask at the next board meeting for approval.
What minor, major, severe? What is deemed on each one of those? Is it a judgment basis? Is it?
It would be judgment based. We do try to work through referrals together in the sense that even do some reader reliability. So like we read the same referral. I think Mr. Smith has worked through some of those with us before too, where here's the situation, and so we have the conversation so that we're viewing it similarly. But just like it says here, you know, things depend on the levels, depends if they have 504 and IEP, so looking at situation by situation. That is part of Senate Bill 100, that there's no all or none for anything that we do have to.
No, but I want to make sure that infraction at Ralston is the same at Maple.
Yes.
That one kids aren't getting punished more than other kids.
Yeah, you need at least have some pillars. I like the fact that the 504, but is it written somewhere, as someone likes to say?
One kid gets in school and the other one gets detention. I just want to make sure that we're treating everyone. Okay. Good with me.
So that would end my report.
All right. Are you taking Mr.
Taking,
Evans?
yes.
All right, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
First off, Dr. Erb, that was an excellent job, presentation with you and the rest of the team.
Yeah,
I
thank
want
you.
to say that. So the first one up here, I'm gonna kind of go through them rather quickly here. Recommendation to approve resolution declaring surplus property. That is at Olson Park, the middle school, here at the Administration Center, Parker Center, Transportation, and Marquette. Also asking for a recommendation to approve facility request. Sunday facility request for Borland wants to use our tennis courts. And then a facility request for homecoming decoration in October. We're already talking about in October. Dang. There you go.
Homecoming.
Homecoming, already. All right, so the next one is recommendation to accept March 2022 Treasurer's Report. You have that there as well. 11B4, recommendation to approve quote for renewal of non-member treasurer's bonds for FY23 for the limit of $15,500,000 at a cost of, that should be $11,935. Treasurer's bond there. The next one is a recommendation to approve an independent contractor agreement with Speech Horizons, Inc. to provide private and parochial speech and language services for $100 per hour for 37 weeks at 24 hours per week for the FY23 school year at a total cost of $88,800, funded by the IDEA grant and the pre-K IDEA grant as well. We have the memos there attached to if you have any questions on that. Recommendation to approve a contract renewal with Northwestern Illinois Association for needs assessment at a cost of $575,508 for the FY23 school year, also funded by the IDEA grant. Also a memo attached there. The next one is a recommendation to approve a contract renewal with Breach Database Solutions, Inc. for Embrace IEP and 504 platforms and website access for $17,132 for the FY23 school year, funded by the IDEA grants. Memos attached there as well. Recommendation to approve a contract renewal with Sunbelt Staffing, Vocal Vision for 2 school psychologist services at a minimum of 37.5 hours per week for 38 weeks at a total cost of $293,678.25 for the FY23 school year, also funded by the IDEA grant. And a recommendation to approve an agreement with Fast Bridge Illuminate Education for a 1-year subscription at a cost of $4,800, funded by the IDEA grant. Then also a recommendation to renew an agreement with Edgenuity for 3 years at a total cost of $99,490. Memo attached. Recommendation to approve an agreement with Regional Office of Education for Administrator Academy Training for an amount not to exceed $5,805. And then we have a recommendation to approve an agreement for professional development with Wisconsin Center for Education Products and Services for a cost of $4,500, funded by Title III. We were already canceled out that next one, so.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
That is that report.
There you
All
go.
right, I got
Many heads.
Dr. Wagner's as well. Recommendation to approve personnel agenda and addendum. We have 3 transfers here, 11 employments, and we also have 14 resignations for various reasons. That is attached as well. Are there any questions on those?
Just if possible, of course, always try to get the survey exit interviews for those, just so we know. This time of year, they're going to come, but any information we can glean.
Absolutely. All right, that ends that report. You want me to keep rolling to mine?
Yeah, somebody else do it?
All right. So, for under my report, recommendation to appoint Kathy Finley as due process hearing officer and Dan Phelps and Dave Lombardo as district due alternate process hearing officers. We have saw, as you all know, a rise in discipline, things that have come our way. And so we found the need, and not just our district, but other districts as well, to have not only one due process hearing officer, but backups too. And so we figured out a way to do that. And so that's what we're recommending now today. Also, there is a Freedom of Information Act request originally received from Illinois Policy on 4/27 regarding full and part-time professional staff, and the district's response on May 10th. That concludes my reports.
Thank you, sir. Moving on. Consent agenda. Can I get a motion and a second to approve personal agenda and addendum?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Broken?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
12B, approves, motion and a second to approve student travel requests.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Brogan? I mean, Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Was that a travel request?
Yes.
12C, approve facility request. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
A motion to, and a second to approve 2022-2023 board and committee meeting schedule.
Mr. Sterling?
Yes.
It seems like last time we grouped some of these together. Is that still?
No, that was on the annual, those were the annual items.
Thought it was a great idea, Chris Arduino.
That was a policy, there's a little policy.
We had like 30 items that we do every year, so we were able to do that.
Can I get a motion and a second to approve 2022-2023 board and committee meeting schedule?
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
A motion and a second to approve resolution declaring surplus property.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye.
All right. I need a motion and a second to approve rescission of the motion made at the 4/25/2022 board meeting as the subcommittee recommendation.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
No.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Excuse
Yes.
me.
We already did this
Excuse
vote.
me.
Did we not?
We did this on consensus. They
Oh.
made a
I
consensus to
see.
do these
I see.
in action
I
items.
misunderstood.
I don't believe Mr. Smith was a no
No,
vote.
it was, yeah.
So the motion has to be made by a person that,
Motion.
so can we redo the motion?
Motion to approve rescission of motion made at 4/25/2022 board meeting as the subcommittee recommendation. Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
No.
Mr. Smith? I mean, Mrs. Ranieri, I'm
Aye.
sorry. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? No. Mr. Sterling?
Aye. All right, for this one, we're gonna go, am I reading one?
Correct, so it's motion to approve blah, 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 the first book.
Yes, that's what I want, I
And
just
then
wanna make sure.
down the list, yep.
That's what I was, sir, but I just wanna make sure. Motion to approve the removal or retention of the challenge books in the high school library on the book-by-book basis as followed. Law and Boy, a novel.
So let me just clarify this. For each book, the motion that would be either made and seconded or not made and seconded would be to approve or to not approve the book based on the challenge, right? The individual would have to make the determination as to which way they are individually leaning, and then the group would determine whether that.
Could you say that again, please?
So, for example, the first book, if I was a board member and said I want to approve retaining this book, just as a hypothetical here, my motion would be to approve the retention of Law and Boy, a novel, right? That's, just using it as hypothetical. If I was on the other side of that, my motion would be to remove Law and Boy, a novel, right? But that motion has to go one way or the other, it can't go both.
Now, that's why I asked about policy earlier. I thought that the board voted on the recommendation of the committee. So now you're saying we're not voting on the recommendation of the committee.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. So
That's what you just said.
No, unfortunately it's not. So let me re-explain it. The recommendation of the committee was to retain all those 8 books. You are now taking that vote and splitting it in 8 different ways. You can either choose to accept the recommendation to retain the book, the individual book, or not, right? But that motion that one of you is going to make has to take a stance, so to speak, either to retain or to not retain that book. But the recommendation still is the recommendation from the committee, right?
So
that doesn't
what
change.
we're voting on is the recommendation or not
Correct.
voting
In
on
one
the
way of looking at it,
recommendation.
correct.
Because that's what the policy is. We're not voting on whether, or we're not voting on the book, we're voting on the recommendation.
No.
Not quite. The recommendation is to retain the book. You can either agree with that recommendation, or you can choose not to agree with that recommendation.
So we
That's
are
your
voting on the
decision.
recommendation.
But your opinion as a board will determine one way or the other on that issue.
Correct.
But to your point, we're still doing it.
It's the same wording, it is.
But those are very important words, that we're
Yes.
not voting for the book. We're voting either to approve with the recommendation that was come to
It's
the.
either removal or retention. Those are the words you need to pick.
I get it.
We have to pick. Approve.
We're voting on the
Or it's-
recommendation that was made. Where,
So the recommendation from their committee was they said that they wanted to keep all the books. So we can say approve because they said they wanted to keep it, or we say
No.
no.
It's not approve, it's retain or removal.
And the recommendation of the committee was to retain. So it's aligned with the policy.
Okay.
I don't know how else to explain this.
Okay.
I'm happy to help clarify
Okay.
any point you have.
So would it help if they they use the word remove or retain?
That would be my recommendation, to make sure the
That's
record
just
is
the way I'm
clear about
reading
what
it
you're
first.
doing and why.
but then
So-
we're not
Okay.
following the policy.
We are. I make a motion to approve Lawn Boy a novel,
You can't approve it.
or
Yeah.
to retain.
I'm thinking with Larry on this one, I think it needs to be the fact that the policy would be that we are trying to write the right way of phrasing it, but this matters. It's not, we're not voting for the removal or retention of it. We're voting to agree or disagree with the findings, and that's
The
the key thing,
recommendation.
the recommendation.
Right.
I mean, it's silly, I get it. At the end of the day, when all the dust settles, it doesn't matter. But this is important moving forward. You look back on this, how this is phrased is that we are per policy following it to the dot and the T.
Well, yes, it's the.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree that normally this doesn't matter. This one matters for sure.
So if you
So
wanted
we
my
have to follow
recommendation,
the
it's the
policy.
language that's in the agenda. You either remove the word removal or you remove the word retention. That's my recommendation. However the board wants to proceed from that, that's my recommendation.
For each book.
For each book.
Second.
Well,
Second
Sorry,
what?
second what? I'm sorry.
For Lawn Boy,
again?
I made a motion
Sorry.
to retain Lawn Boy a novel.
Are you making a motion to follow the recommendation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there could be discussion and
seconded?
debate on each
There
book.
can be
That's,
discussion or
that's,
debate.
or you can call the vote, whichever one the board wants to do.
Is there a discussion that you want on this, or do you go straight to the vote?
There's the recommendation if you look.
Right. The little synopsis.
Did anybody read that
attached.
number, any of the books here?
Yes.
Like,
I bought all the
seriously?
books.
Yes, but
Like, nobody knows
hold
what's
on.
going on here.
These are my books.
There's many things happening here right now, so there's been a motion and a second, so if you guys want to either have the discussion on the book or we're going to do the vote. Sue, would you like to discuss anything with this? Kurt?
This is book by book. Yeah, let me. You want to come back around to me?
Sure.
Unless anyone else none, so yeah.
Sure.
I say removal for long.
So no discussion?
Yes or no?
No.
It'll be a no.
I guess one question I have then coming around is, since this has been ongoing for all of these books, and it's clearly well known, have there been any requests to remove access of any of these books from any said children? Because that's something that can currently be done, correct? They would go to the librarian, they would go to you, my son or daughter, or whoever wants to, I don't want them to have access. Has any request been made for any books, no matter what it is, since this conversation has come place?
That I don't know, other than the original challenger.
Okay, so it's just a real challenger, no one else.
I'll make one right now.
No.
No,
you
no,
can't-
no.
No,
No,
no.
No,
You
just
have-
because you guys kept this all under wraps since January. Can we
Listen,
just
stop.
Excuse me, my secondary question would be this: do we currently promote or encourage this parental tool?
Do we currently promote?
Yes, to their point, do the parents know that they have the option to say that?
No.
No, I'm sorry, I'm asking
Do they
the
have-
superintendent.
Do they have the option to say what?
Right now, do they say, I do not want my student to have access to this
They have
book?
that option.
They
Do they
have that
know
option.
that
Do we
you have that?
currently promote that, or have anywhere they would have it where it's not buried in it? How do we currently do that? It's in the handbook, okay. So what I would say, vote or not, is that I would make sure that anyone listening now knows they have that tool. Because this is, to me, more than,
Hey,
hey,
stop.
excuse me.
Stop interjecting while we're having the meeting, or you can leave.
Sorry. I'm
That
sorry.
goes to everybody.
I apologize to you.
This is a parental rights issue. It's important to the parents that have this decision. Everyone has their own opinion on this, and it's tough. There is no easy choice. Most of us have children. It's going to directly impact them one way or the other. There are tools in place. I just asked simply if those tools are there, if they're being utilized, and if parents know how those tools are there. It gives control. That's all I'm saying, because that's what it is. The agreement of the community is one thing, but if there's tools there where you can take a proactive effort for your own children, that's important. You're not taking your opinion and pushing it on you. As everyone that you disagreed with in this room has a different thing, you would not want their opinion pushed on you or vice versa. There is a tool that is there that can be used. Regardless of how anyone votes for any of these books, that tool is in place. We are not done. I am certainly sure we are not done with any of this. But these tools are in place. So to make sure that's there, and you want to be proactive, and you want to have something that can be done today, there's a tool that is there. If we don't know the tool is there, because it's there, that's something that we can work on. That's something that we can improve. That's something that I think we can get consensus out of a community, because it was there. Someone created it for a reason. That's all I'm going with. I'm just asking questions that's there as we come across this. Secondly, with my asking of all of this, as we're here, we've been provided some great data. These books have been here. Some of these books have been in circulation in our library for 7 years. And on average, these books are checked out 2.5 times per year. Again, I'm not stating one way or the other, good, bad, or otherwise. I'm just stating facts. Use them against me, use them for them. These are just facts that are there. We have books that handle crazy topics you can dive into that's there, that have been checked out thousands of times. What differs some of these things there? I'm not saying going on a hunt, but I'm saying as a parent that I have to deal with these. And you know what? I've had great experiences. Some books that were not on this list that other people have spoke, saying what's been important to their life. I've had my young daughters read these books, and there's conversations that come with these. And again, that's my opinion, and my goal is to not have my opinion affect this. The goal is there's a process that's directly in place. There's a point that parents need to be involved. You all are involved. There's tools that are there. It's important. That's kind of where I'm going. The vote's there. I want to show where the numbers are there. It's accessible. I don't mind it. I will share how many times these books have been done, how they've been in circulation, and how many times they're checked out. It's eye-opening. There are more people in this room that have checked out the most popular book out of all of these. So just make sure. Everyone is gathering information. Everyone has their opinions. Here's more information. I have my own opinions. My goal is to vote not based on my opinions, but keep everything by policy and how things should be done. Okay? And we've heard about racisms and things of that nature. There's opposite sides. We need to be civil, guys. That's what makes Harlem great and this community great. Calling people racist, calling people promoting pornography is not what's gonna help to this. Real conversations can happen. This stuff matters, right? And we're gonna, whatever we do here, half of you are gonna hate half of it or not. And your children may be directly impacted one way or the other, and you may not know it. There's other people who don't know. So just stating, asking some questions, there are tools that are directly there where you can take an action, no matter how you're cited. There's the books. Maybe you didn't know these books are there and you're on the other side of it and you want to spread them. Let them know they're not being checked out. Great, you can be an advocate for other points that way too. Or other books, or if they're at the library pointing to that. Again, this is tricky stuff. So again, I went on a tangent. I'm gonna pull an Evelyn, I'm sorry. But this is, it wears on all of us. Sorry.
No, this is what needs to happen.
So to get to the point, as I was a long roundabout way there, so at this point, we have not had any other requests for any parents limiting access to any books that you are currently aware of, Terrell. Correct. And they're currently, if they want to find that ability to do that, that is listed in the handbook, and it's not currently promoted in any other fashion, correct? Okay. Yes, those are the end of my questions.
So where?
Okay, we have a first with Jill, a second with you, and we have Ranieri on no.
Okay. Larry?
Yes.
Or Evelyn, you should, do you want me to take this seat or?
You want- Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we started with Ranieri and we've got Smith now to start.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Rogan?
Yes.
Mrs. Meeks, no. Mr. Sterling?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Just to qualify, because one of them, yes, we are agreeing with.
The recommendation.
Law and
Okay. Yes.
All right.
We need Sue,
No.
so we have 4-3 in favor of retention.
For.
For Lawn Boy only.
Yes. Motion to approve the retention of the challenge books in high school library on the book-by-book basis as follows. Monday's Not Coming, a novel.
Recommendation, a motion to
Keep
the recommendation
correct.
that the committee made
Correct.
for the novel Monday's Not Coming. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay.
I thought the book was a very good book. Sad book. Monday's Not Coming, a novel.
Okay. Jill Rogan?
Yes.
Mrs. Meeks? I have a thing. I'll pass. I'll come back. Mr. Sterling?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Brogan?
Abstain.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Meeks abstain.
Sharon, you said yes?
Yes.
Motion to approve the retention of the challenge books in high school library on a book-by-book basis as follows. Which, a novel, genderqueer, a memoir.
Motion to follow the recommendation of the committee
No,
for genderqueer, a memoir.
Are you making the motion?
Yes.
Second?
Second?
Mr. Sterling?
no.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Brogan?
No.
Mrs. Ranieri?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
I would like to say this. My response is going to be no, but I would like to say there has been a very false and very dangerous narrative that the issue with this book is the concept, as these are merely line drawings, hardly pornographic. You may not agree with my view on the images, but you do not get the authority to create your own narrative and say we are telling students their identity is inappropriate. We are not telling our students their identity is inappropriate. We are saying the images in the book are too obscene for our school.
Wait.
I even looked to see if there was a novel version of this book without the pictures, and unfortunately, there isn't.
That we say that these pictures should not be, they were just shown in open session. Those pictures were shown in open session.
Larry.
And there were TVs that even took pictures of
Larry,
them.
I even asked the administrator, if they had those pictures on a T-shirt, would the kid be dress coded? Yes.
Or if they were in
They would-
black
they
and
wouldn't-
white.
they wouldn't be allowed to
or in
wear it.
color.
Are they titillating to anyone, the legal definition of pornography? I mean, I'm not gonna get into this, this is the point. My opinion may come into this, but I think we need to back up. Again, it's to the committee.
they should have been displayed on TV.
Well, they may not
They're, I
display
mean,
them on
they're
TV.
clearly objectional to most, myself included.
Mr. Sterling, did you finish the vote on that?
Yes.
You got all the way around? I just want to make sure that.
I'm no.
I've got on the gender queer, I've got Smith and, I'm sorry. I've got Sterling, no. Kurt is yes. Sue Barogan is a no. Ranieri is a no. Smith is a yes. And Jill said no, but did,
Make a statement,
make
but
the
it's still a no.
statement. And now it's Meeks.
My statement is that I don't have anything against anybody's sexual orientation at all. And reading this book and looking at the pictures, if that book was in black and white with human beings in it, it would not be in the library at all. It would be banned, it would be considered soft porn. That's what I take of it. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. Like I said, I don't, if it had been written like without the pictures, unless your mind, your imagination, but I'm sorry.
Yes or no?
I'm in all spells no.
Okay, so that fails. So it will be removed.
Yes. A motion to approve the retention of the challenge book in the high school library on a book-by-book basis as followed, Beyond Magenta.
Motion to retain Beyond Magenta.
Motion to accept the recommendation of the
Yes.
committee for
Wait a minute,
policy.
we've already got a motion on the floor.
It's the first one.
Larry was just clarifying my motion.
It's not what it sounded like to me, and I don't think it sounded like to Chris, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a
Jill's-
motion to approve.
Jill's motion is the motion. If you second it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But
It's
one at a
as-
time.
It's as read. Motion to approve the retention of the challenge books in the high school library on a book-by-book basis as follows, Beyond Magenta. Transgender teens speak out.
Motion to retain Beyond Magenta.
Second.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Brogan,
Abstain.
Mrs. Ranieri,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Jill Brogan,
Yes.
Mrs. Meeks, abstain, Mr. Sterling,
Yes. Motion to approve the removal, or motion to approve the retention of the challenge books in the high school library on a book-by-book basis, The Bluest Eye.
Motion to approve the recommendation by the committee for the Bluest Eye.
Second.
Mrs. Brogan,
Is that an option? Okay.
It's fine as the
It's
way
the
Mr.
same
Smith
as
is.
retaining.
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
Because they all recommended to retain, so he's,
Kurt, did
he's
you
saying the same
second?
thing.
I did.
Mrs. Brogan,
Abstain.
Mrs. Ranieri,
No.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Jill Brogan,
Yes.
Mrs. Meeks, abstain, Mr. Sterling,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Motion to approve the retention of the challenge book in the high school library on a book-by-book basis, I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter.
Motion to follow the recommendation of the committee per policy, or Out of Darkness.
Are you changing up the book?
Titles are we
You
doing?
did the wrong book, sir.
You did the wrong book first.
You're doing
Sorry.
There are, to be fair, there are a lot of
I actually-
punctuations
Let's,
that are.
let's remove everything off the floor and start that one over, just so
Okay.
everyone's clear.
We're gonna start this one over. Motion to approve the removal or, motion to approve the retention of the challenge books in the high school library on a book-by-book basis, Out of Darkness.
What he said.
He skipped it at first.
That's all right, he came to you, and then we'll go back and get the other one.
Yeah, that's part of Beyond Magenta.
Oh, okay. We can do my other documents.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back to I Am Not Perfect Mexican Daughter after this one.
Oh, I thought he said that.
Is there a motion?
He did.
You did.
It is
That's
Out
what
of
we're doing.
Darkness. Okay. So motion to approve the recommendation of the committee as to the book Out of Darkness.
Second.
I didn't make the motion.
I know, I thought he did.
Okay.
Mr. Sterling,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Brogan,
Abstain.
Mrs. Ranieri,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Jill Brogan,
Yes.
Mrs. Meeks abstain.
All right. Motion to approve the retention of the challenged books in the high school library on the book-by-book basis as follows. I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter.
I will make a motion to follow the recommendation of the committee regarding I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter.
Second.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Brogan,
Abstain.
Mrs. Ranieri,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Jill Brogan,
Yes.
Mrs. Meeks, yes, Mrs. Sterling,
Yes.
You voted yes on that?
Motion to approve the retention of the challenge books in the high school library on a book-by-book basis as follows. The opposite of innocent.
Motion to retain the opposite of innocent.
Second.
Mrs. Brogan,
Abstain.
Mrs. Ranieri,
Abstain.
Mr. Smith,
Yes to follow the recommendation of the committee.
No,
It's either yes or no to the motions on the floor.
can't do that.
Yes to the motion that's on the floor.
Jill Brogan,
Yes.
Mrs. Meeks abstain, Mr. Sterling,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
I need a motion and a second to approve the first readings of policy update recommendations from April 20th, 2022 Policy Committee.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Ranieri,
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
She said aye.
Oh, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Jill Brogan.
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye, Mr. Sterling.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan,
Aye.
I need a motion and a second to approve a memorandum of understanding between Harlem Board of Education and Rock Valley College for linking talent with opportunity program dual credit.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Jill Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye, Mr. Sterling.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri.
Aye.
I need a motion and a second to approve the acceptance of the March 2022 Treasurers Report.
Motion.
Second.
Jill Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye, Mrs. Sterling.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan.
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Motion and a second to approve the quote for the renewal of non-member treasurer's bond for FY '23 with a limit of $15,500,000 at a cost of $11,935.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Meeks, aye, Mr. Sterling.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Jill Brogan, Jill Brogan.
Aye.
13I, approve an independent contractor agreement with Speech Horizons, Inc. to provide private and parochial speech and language services for $100 per hour for 37 weeks at 24 hours per week for the FY '23 school year at a total cost of $88,800, funded by the IDEA grant and pre-K IDEA grant. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Sterling.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan.
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye.
13J, approve a contract renewal with Northwestern Illinois Association for needs assessment at a cost of $575,508 for the FY23 school year, funded by the IDEA grant. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye. 13K, approve a contract renewal with Brex Database Solutions, Inc. for Embrace IEP and 504 platforms and a website access for $17,132 for the FY23 school year, funded by the IDEA grants. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
13L, can I get a motion and a second to approve the contract renewal with Sunbelt Staffing Voco Vision for two school psychologist services at a minimum of 37.5 hours per week for 38 weeks at a total cost of $293,678.25 for the FY23 school year, funded by the IDEA grant.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
13M, approve an agreement with Fastbridge Illuminate Education for a one-year subscription at a cost of $4,800, funded by the IDEA grant. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
13N, approve renewal of agreement with Edgenuity for 3 years at a total cost of $99,490.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill.
13,
Yeah, aye. Yeah, aye.
That's good, Jill.
Yeah, that's all right.
13O, approve an agreement with the Regional Office of Education for Administrator Academy Training for amounts not to exceed $5,805.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Sterling?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye.
13P, approve an agreement for professional development with Wisconsin Center of Education Products and Services for a cost of $4,500, funded by Title III grant.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Reeves, aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye. 13R, approve appointment of Kathleen Finley, Dan Phelps, and Dave Lombardo as district due process hearing officers. Can I get a motion?
Motion. Meeks? Second?
Second.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Are there any announcements and discussions before the next vote? No? I need a motion and a second to go into executive session to discuss employment of personnel, 5 ILCS 120-2C1, and student discipline, 5 ILCS 120-2C9.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Ranieri?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Jill Brogan?
Yes.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mrs. Sterling?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
10 minutes?
Yeah. Whatever gets an
All right, clear.